Y'all, the Wizard101 community is constantly coming out with ideas for new features that they'd like to see in the game. And today we're going to be talking about one of those suggestions that's gaining a lot of traction on social media. I'm talking about this post right here, and the suggestion is a guarantee of going first even while soloing in PvE. Now, Wizard101, we know and love it as a turn-based game. That means in every combat situation, you're either first or you're second. And over the years, as we have more and more worlds with more and more fights, people have noticed one obvious thing, and that is that a battle can be much easier based on whether you go first or not, right? Just the fact that shields and weaknesses exist. If you're going second against a mob that debuffs you, you could literally go from having a hit that could kill to not having a hit that can kill. You can spend all your pips on it, end up completely throwing, and then it's almost like you have to restart minus all the pips that you literally started the battle with, right? That is a situation that a lot of people can relate to when they're trying to speed quest or even farm something. It gets in the way of something that could be very convenient and makes a very easy battle into a very hard battle. Now, this post went on to state that there are cheats that are actually based on turn order, using the Mirage old cob fight as an example, and saying that those types of fight would be exceptions. But I'm gonna be honest, y'all, when I was reading the comment section of this, I honestly thought such a big change to the game. I thought it would be more of like a mixed bag. I thought people would be saying, yeah, I might want first. I thought there would be a lot more people saying, no, this isn't a good idea. Most people just wanted this like point blank, and I think it just speaks to the fact that a lot of people just approach this game casually, which is totally fine. But I also wanted to weigh in on this idea and also talk about other ways you could actually manipulate PvE that already exist in the game that I actually want them to flesh out a lot. But at base value, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of disagree in a 1v1 setting or a 1v2 setting or whatever you want to call it, right? When you're soloing, I disagree that going first always should be a thing. I think one of the big reasons why you might want to play the game solo is that some parts of it can be challenging. And I actually have a very recent experience with going first versus second and it having catastrophic outcomes. So if y'all have been watching the live streams every day, I've been doing this thing called a die equals delete, and recently I had a catastrophic death, which means I had to delete the wizard. I was a level 6 fire, and I was fighting the one and only infamous Belloc. And obviously this is a solo challenge. The whole point of it is to make the game interesting and replayable and reinvent it. I went into this fight, the Belloc fight, and the big cheat here is that you have to hit him every round, in case y'all don't know. Otherwise he does a massive 1500 damage base hit on you. And I made a very fatal error. I packed Fire Off because it's an overtime that hits every round, which is a great spell to have to fight a boss with a cheat that does stuff if you don't hit him every round. But I went in with the bottom path Fire Elf. And here's the crazy part, right? What bottom path Fire Elf is, it's an overtime that does a second overtime if the opponent has a shield. But this is an overtime that doesn't have an initial hit, meaning if you're first, you will get a hit on Belloc and basically deactivate his cheat. But if you're second, this overtime will go on Belloc and you won't get the hit that turn. That's exactly what ended up happening. My stupid ass self went in thinking bottom path Fire Elf was enough. I went second, and that very small thing immediately made this battle much different. Now, am I happy that I died and had to restart? And by the way, I just ended up going on another school. We're on a new die equals delete now. Obviously, no, I'm not thrilled about that, but not everyone is playing the game with self-imposed rules, and I think it's a great example of when, especially in a solo setting, always getting first, yes, it's convenient, but then you might lose out on all kinds of interactions. And here's the deal. I think that argument really only works for cheating bosses. If you're looking at the vast majority of mobs and bosses in this game, going first is simply just a difference between a fight lasting longer or not, which is where I think this idea comes from. And in spirit, I agree with it, but I do think always going first will make you lose out on some fun fights, which is why I don't think they should do a first turn guaranteed in solo settings. That being said, I do think they have a lot to work with to make things feel a little less inconvenient in other settings. In case y'all didn't know, there's actually a couple of little quality of life updates that they've already put out, but they only work in group settings, specifically settings where there are like 4 people sometimes. Now, this feature has been around for a while, but I feel like it could really be fleshed out to address really the root cause of why people want a first turn guarantee to begin with. But if y'all didn't know, right, if you're in a group and it's full, you're actually always guaranteed first. So let's say that I invited Aaron, Alex, and Amanda. They all said yes to a group, right? If I go in and they join me, regardless of what the 50-50 coin flip for who goes first is at the beginning of that match, we'll all go first. I really think, while obviously I really don't think you can ever do that in a solo setting, I'd love to see If you're in a group period, maybe they could start with 3 people, but I'd ideally love to see it for duo questing. I feel like if you're going out of your way to team up with someone in a group, you should still have a guarantee of first, right? I think the whole implication of you questing with someone or farming with someone is that you're doing it for some level of added convenience, right? The only time that you can't really make the argument that you're trying to make it convenient is when you're soloing, right? But if you're going out of your way to hit up someone, you're going together into something, maybe you're questing through a world, maybe you're farming something with one other person, I don't see why 2 people can't be guaranteed first in a group just like you're guaranteed when you're in 4, right? Imagine questing through a new world with a friend and being rewarded for that. I feel like you're only rewarded when you have 2 other people. And can I be really honest, from my experience, the only time the 4 people in a group and you're all guaranteed first really, you know, is an effect for me anyways, it's when I'm farming gold keys with people and I normally have to schedule that well in advance, or it's when a new world comes out, right? Like when Darkmoor dropped, I was able to easily make a group of 4 and then do all of these new dungeons in the Arcanum, and as long as we all stayed, we would go into Darkmoor. But let's say we're even talking about a time period like this, right? A couple of weeks after an update dropped Live Realm, or maybe you're talking about farming something else. Sometimes it's hard to get 3 people. I would love if Wiz considered maybe making it so if you grouped with 2 or 3 people to have a guarantee of first. Now, the other feature that kind of does sort of exist, it's like an adventure party. If y'all don't know how these work, these actually let you group up with people and choose your turn order. That's another thing that they've done that does add convenience to the whole PvE experience. But, and I'm gonna be honest, I think this would be really cool to see. You really have very little control over how you pull a minion and a boss and in what order. And I think that also, some level of control over that, maybe a setting that always allows the minion to go first, always a boss to go first, or maybe just something, some feature that you can put up, especially when you're soloing, to be like, are you sure that you want to pull in this order? Maybe something like that, and it could be like a toggleable feature. I think that would be really cool so that, yeah, maybe you're not guaranteed first when you're soloing, but at least you have some control over the fight you're about to do. Obviously, this sounds very situational, but I'm actually also speaking about this feature from a personal experience recently. So the day before the accursed Belloc stream, I was actually doing a Waterworks solo, and I found out something after multiple failed attempts that changed quite a bit, and that had a lot to do with the fact that I was doing it on a fire, right? And basically, fire just gets a lot of fire resist. A lot of their gear gives it. If y'all have ever done Waterworks, the final fight involves a death, a fire, and an astral school. Let's just call him astral. Silster is like a star school guy. But I realized because my resist was already very good defense against the fire mob, having the death mob go first was the best case scenario, because then all of my tower shields would get the best bang for their buck. Every time my tower shield, because the death would go first, there was a higher chance that I'm basically debuffing a stronger incoming hit rather than the fire going first and me debuffing a weaker hit, right? If I have fire res, I want my shields to be used on non-fire hits. While that realization did make it a lot easier, I was still very unable to control in the order that I wanted, which ideally would have been the one that I have the most resist to being last, right? I could always choose who I approach to drag first. It was very hard, and I would say this is notoriously hard in a lot of settings, even things like Beast Moon. It's notoriously hard to drag the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th minion properly. Considering a lot of this feedback about wanting to go first always in PvE really comes from inconvenient fights, especially in solo settings, I would love if they had a feature where you would have a little bit more control over, maybe not the turn order, but definitely the order of the enemies that you're fighting. I think that can have a lot of impacts on a fight. Unless there's a cheat that involves needing one thing to go first, I think that should be something that barely affects any fight in a bad way, in a way where you miss out on the fun. But yes, I definitely think a little bit more control over the order of the enemies and just a little bit more leeway in going first being a guarantee when you're in smaller groups. I think that'd be great directions for Wiz to go. And I'm just giving my personal opinion. I don't really, I guess, have a huge opinion. I would like to keep going first guaranteed as a solo player as an option if it ever happens, so that it wouldn't really affect my ability to have a challenge. But I saw that post, I saw a lot of comments on it. I thought I'd make a video about it because it definitely seems to be something that a lot of people care about. But I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. What do y'all think of the idea of going first versus second in a solo setting, in a group setting? Where would y'all attack this issue to make it more convenient, especially from a casual perspective? And y'all like my suggestions? Y'all think that first turn guarantees in smaller groups should be a thing? More control over minion order should be a thing? I'd love to hear all of y'all's thoughts on this. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Also, y'all, happy Thanksgiving. I'm mad grateful for y'all. So I just wanted y'all to know that at the end of this goddamn video. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon. And yeah.